emissions, we're helping our customers reduce their greenhouse gas emissions with innovations like our films to make automobiles and electronics and homes more efficient, and smog reducing roofing granules. So there's a number of areas where our innovation can play. Now, we see a very important role on both sides of this, and it's our people, it's fundamental to who we are to lead forward in this.
How do the institutional investors regard it? Because one of the things that we hear a lot about, our funds now are saying, we really want to go green. We want to really be environmentally responsible, and we're going to start picking stocks based on that. We're going to make investments or disinvestments based on it. What's your reputation? When you talk to institutional investors, how do they regard 3M?
Well, ESG is a big focus with our investors, and we've been very highly regarded because of the results that come out of some of the things that I've talked about. And there's a lot of discussion around how we're managing PFAS. I think we get good credibility around how we're approaching it, but it is an issue that's important for us to manage well. But again, back to that leadership focus that we have in sustainability, that really positions us well, I think, in the investor community.
One of your announcements today as well is laying off 1,500 people, and I know it's never fun to lay off people. It's not. It's people's lives. You care about it. Will that get you down to the level you need to? Because you had a layoff earlier as well. Do you think you're down to the core group, or could we expect further layoffs down the road?
In 2019, we were facing those difficult end markets. Right. We took action, and part of it was restructuring our costs in the face of slower growth, and that was an important step for us. Now, as we've executed through the year, well positioned for returning to growth in 2020, this is really about that transformation journey. It's about building on what we put in place in our ERP rollout, optimizing our capabilities end to end, and that's a big change. We're moving to a global model now that is really meant to align better with customers and streamline and simplify 3M. So this restructuring enables us to move quickly to that new alignment.
How can you meet your goals with 1,500 fewer people? Is that more productivity from the people you have, or is it actually reduced demand, reduced output?
It's really facing into driving additional growth. We think it's going to unlock even a better focus on growth. It's really taking advantage of all we've been doing in our transformation journey. It's really optimizing and aligning the company end to end for our customers through the model that we have around our go-to-market model. So it's really taking advantage of the investments we've made through our transformation journey, and now stepping forward and multiplying that impact through this change.
You talked about, at least before the coronavirus, sort of modest to low digits, maybe mid-single digits growth globally. What do you see for manufacturing? Because manufacturing has been in a soft spot globally.
Well, the macro backdrop, the industrial production, we see that continue to be soft in the first half of the year, still low growth. So our model and how we think about growth for the year in our safety and industrial business, our transportation electronics businesses, really faces into that. There's a projection it gets a little better as we go through the year. I think that's something that, especially with what's going on right now in China, we're going to take a few weeks here to really understand how it's going to develop. But I think we see a positive outlook and a positive outlook for growth for us.
Okay, Mike Roman, CEO of 3M. Thanks so much for being with us. And we're going to have more with Mike Roman coming up in our second hour on Bloomberg Radio. And we've also had some news from Renault. The French car maker has named Luca De Maio as its new CEO, effective in July. The company is trying to turn the page on the Carlos Ghosn era and patch up its alliance with Nissan. De Maio formerly ran Volkswagen's Spanish unit. More Balance of Power coming up next. This is Bloomberg.
Financial leaders enjoy talking with Tom Keene and Jonathan Darrow.
What was it like having the giant darken the door every once in a while?
Experts appreciate it when what they have to say is understood.
Do you think that we might have seen a cyclical peak in the labor market?
It's the same reason we're recommending Bloomberg Surveillance to you.
Everything you thought would happen is happening.
Weekday mornings at 7 Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Sweet strawberry icing. You're in Goodwill, and just past that vintage denim jacket you spot miniature donut earrings. You lean in. That's the scent of shopping success. Because at Goodwill, every item you buy funds local job training and more. So bring home those donut earrings and bring home so much good to your community. Goodwill. Bring good home. Brought to you by Goodwill and the Ad Council.
Imagine being denied an apartment because of your religion, or your race, or because you have children, or a disability.
It's so wrong.
Yes, but who has the power to stop this?
You do. Each of us has the power. The law is on your side. It's illegal for landlords to discriminate because of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, or familial status. If you suspect that you have experienced housing discrimination, file a complaint with HUD immediately so we can investigate it. Fair housing is your right.
Use it.
To learn more, visit HUD.gov/fairhousing. That's HUD.gov/fairhousing. Or call 1-800-669-9777. 1-800-669-9777. A public service message from HUD in partnership with the National Fair Housing Alliance.
This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Television and Radio. I'm David Weston. It's time now for Stock of the Hour. Apple is up more than 2% and heading for its best day since November. This is ahead of the company's fourth quarter earnings results that come off just the bell today. And Kayla says to tell us, I must say, this stock has been up and up and up, and it's up some more before the earnings?
Yeah,
really?
I mean, fair to say expectations are really high going in. If you take it over the past year, Apple is up more than 100%. So the stock has literally doubled, and the valuation is now at its highest in more than a decade with a PE ratio of around 26. Now, there's some analysts out there that are a little cautious on that valuation, but really overwhelmingly, they still recommend buying the stock. 27 of them, according to data tracked by Bloomberg, have buy ratings, 14 have holds, only 7 have sells. So you have 85% of the street saying you need to either add or continue to hold this stock in your portfolio. The question is that bullishness going to be justified when we get that print after the bell today? Overall, revenue is expected to be about $88 million. That would be up 5% year on year. Actually would be the best quarter in about 5 quarters, and earnings are expected to be up about 9% year on year. Now, iPhone shipments are expected to fall just slightly on a year on year basis, but there's still a lot of optimism out there about iPhone demand, specifically for that iPhone 11.
Well, okay, so you got revenue, really important. We got earnings per share, really important, but go below it. Go to iPhone scales. How much of it is iPhone 11 sales? How much of it is services? How much is China? Because there's been a lot of speculation. So what's really going to drive this further?
Well, analysts have been saying that the demand for iPhone, specifically in China, has been really good to this point, and we know that the iPhone is still the dominant revenue source for this company. It makes up about 55% of sales. That said, where the growth really lies is in that services business and also in wearables with AirPods that have done really well, Apple Watches, etc. So those areas we know are of increasing focus to Apple, but that doesn't mean the iPhone is any less important. It still is their big revenue driver.
And the increased demand for the iPhone 11, I understand, is in part because it's a little cheaper.
It is.
And so is that a good thing for Apple? Because for the longest time, they were not going to cut price. They were going to be a high price one.
Right.
But is that an opportunity for them? They can make a lot more market share if they cut their price a little bit, or are people worried they might cut into their profitability?
Well, it is seen as that, and it's interesting. Going forward, Beyond Apple is expected to announce maybe in March a lower cost iPhone, even lower below what the current cost of the iPhone 11 is. The question now is, with these coronavirus concerns in China, does it kind of throw a wrench in that? Because think about Apple's production, where the iPhones are actually assembled. It's in a plant that is not too far away from Wuhan, where this virus is broken out. So it could impact the supply chains. And then there also potentially is a demand concern when you think about domestic consumption in China could slow, and that could weigh on Apple.
Give us just a minute on the markets overall, because we've had a lot of President Trump this morning. Haven't spent enough time on the markets. Where are we?
We're higher. I don't want to totally call it a comeback. You know, things could change, and we haven't fully recovered from the steep declines we saw yesterday. But equity markets are rebounding. It's really risk on, and it's not just in stocks. You're seeing that reflected in the fact that investors are coming out of some of those safer assets. 10-year Treasury yields, for example, are higher today for the first time in 6 sessions. So you're seeing some of those safety trades unwind. Investors seem to be getting a little bit of the risk appetite back, and those coronavirus concerns maybe have subsided just a little bit today, but we'll see how it plays out going forward as we get more reports.
Okay, Kayla Lines, thank you so much for that update on Apple and the markets. Coming up later today, Kevin Sorelli is going to be speaking with Jared Kushner, Senior Advisor to the President, about the new Middle East plan. That airs in the 3 p.m. hour today. Coming up, a Balance of Power, and we continue on Bloomberg Radio in our second hour. We're going to have more with the CEO of 3M. He's Mike Roman. And on Monday, Balance of Power will be live from Des Moines. Both hours of the program will be on TV and on radio. Also bring you special coverage that night of the caucus at 10 p.m. This is Bloomberg.
This is a Bloomberg Pursuits look at luxury. For many New Yorkers, the rent is still too high, but New York's new law, which limits rent increases on roughly 1 million units, has scared potential apartment building buyers away. New numbers from Ariel Property Advisors finds a 36% drop in multifamily housing deals from 2018 to 2019, and a 40% drop in the collective value of those deals. Baby Shark, the viral earworm and de facto anthem for the Washington Nationals during the team's World Series run last year, gave its producer, Kim Min-seok, a fortune of about $125 million. His uncle, Kim Chang-soo, is doing even better. He and his family have an estimated net worth of roughly $1 billion, thanks in large part to their 54% stake in F&F Company, which manufactures and sells official Major League Baseball branded clothing, bags, and ball caps. Shares of the company almost tripled last year after striking a deal to sell MLB apparel in China. I'm Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
When you put together the puzzle that's today's business and political environment,
Can you make a call given this swirl of data?
Is that already being reflected in the way that they're priced?
make sure you have all the pieces.
Which segments of Alphabet's business are most likely to come under scrutiny?
They're getting mixed signals from governments.
He's failed to gain traction.
Will he have to abide by a subpoena?
Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business, Radio.com, and iHeartRadio apps, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Why do hedge funds and other alternative managers rely on Pershing for a highly personalized experience? Mark Alderati, a managing director at BNY Mellon's Pershing and head of Prime Services, explains.
In today's fast-paced environment, where the only constants are change and volatility, you need a prime broker who's both steady and agile, focused on supporting your needs so that you can focus on growing your business and producing results. Exceptional client service and advocating for our clients is at the core of what we do. Our award-winning high-touch team is just one of the benefits of working with BNY Mellon. We help alternative investment managers create great experiences for their clients. Whether it's customized financing, securities lending solutions, platform access, or outsourced trading, BNY Mellon's Pershing is a prime broker who's committed to this business and dedicated to meeting your evolving demands.
To learn more about the unique and industry-leading solutions for hedge funds and other alternative managers, visit Pershing.com. Pershing, LLC. Member FINRA, NYSE, SIPC.
From the financial capital of the world, 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, on the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is Bloomberg Radio. Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. We've got the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all advancing right now, with the S&P 500 index up 35 points. That's a gain of 1.1%. The Dow higher by 243 points. That is a gain of 0.8%. And the NASDAQ Composite Index up now by 126 points, a gain of 1.4%. So stocks heading toward their biggest advance since October on speculation that global efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. S&P 500 index rebounding from its worst sell-off in 4 months. We've got the 10-year down today by 10/30 seconds. The yield there 1.64%. Gold down 7 cents, 15.70 the ounce. And West Texas Intermediate crude oil is advancing today, rebounding from yesterday's decline, up 0.5%. WTI now at 53.39 a barrel. Brent crude is at 59.65, still below 60, but it is up by 0.6%. 3M shares down 5.4%, dropping the most in 9 months after revealing it had received a grand jury subpoena in an environmental probe and saying it will cut 1,500 jobs amid slumping markets from car parts to electronics. 3M makes a range of products, including touch-screen displays and, of course, those yellow Post-it notes, along with respirators that are being used by medical personnel well to deal with the China virus. 3M CEO Mike Roman was our guest moments ago, right here on Balance of Power.
Well, we're ramping up our production to full capacity, 24/7, as fast as we can, to support the demand that we see in China and even to a degree outside of China. So we have production in China. We're all over ramping that up to meet the demand there. We're working with customers and government officials, health organizations, to make sure we're making the right products and getting them to the right customers. And then we're ramping up production in Europe, in Asia, and in the U.S., where we also produce the respirators that are in demand.
And again, 3M shares slumping now by 5.6%. Apple will be the big story after the close of trading today. Right now, we've got Apple up by 2.5%, $316.51. Also reporting after the closing bell, Starbucks, its shares right now down by 1 cent. Gold down 0.8%, $15.70 the ounce. Again, recapping here, stocks higher, S&P up by 1%. 1:02 on Wall Street. Time now for the Market Drivers Report with a focus on American depository receipts. Here he is, Dave Wilson.
Thanks, Charlie. ADRs are higher. They're not quite as much as U.S. shares. The S&P ADR index is up 0.6%, and the S&P 500 is higher by 1%. Spain's Telefonica has risen 3.6% in U.S. trading. The website El Confidencial reported private equity firm CVC Partners may buy a stake in the phone company. The story cited unnamed sources and said CVC has met with Telefonica's chairman. Germany's ThyssenKrupp has gained 8.6%. People with knowledge of the matter said Finland's Kone made the highest offer for the company's elevator unit. They said the proposal was valued at about $19 billion. Kone's ADRs, by the way, are up 4.6%. Dutch electronics company Philips has lost 2%. Fourth quarter sales trail analyst average estimate in a Bloomberg survey after adjusting for deals and currency swings. Philips said it's considering a sale of its home appliance business. And gold mining ADRs are lower as the precious metal drops from a 6-year high. Canada's Barrick Gold is down 3%, and Kinross Gold is down 2.7%. And among South African miners, AngloGold Ashanti is down 6.7%, and Gold Fields is down 6.8%, Charlie.
And we thank you very much, Dave Wilson, tracking those American depository receipts. Again, recapping here, a rebound from yesterday with the S&P up 32, up by 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of Power with David Weston continues.
This is Balance of Power.
We have the strongest economy by far in the world.
We're going to grow our trade relationship.
I know what's broken. I know how to fix it.
Where the world of politics meets the world of business.
They've got the money they need to run a very competitive race.
We've got now a real crunch few days for Brexit.
We want certainty in the markets. We want certainty in our trading relationships.
The administration is trying to create a new divided world.
Balance of Power with David Weston on Bloomberg Radio.
President Trump announces his new Middle East peace plan. President Trump's lawyers present closing arguments in his impeachment trial, and U.S. companies come to terms with the coronavirus and what it means for their Chinese businesses. From the Bloomberg Interactive Broker Studio, welcome to the second hour of Balance of Power. Companies around the world are trying to figure out growth for the new year, and now they have the coronavirus in China to deal with as well. Mike Roman, CEO of 3M, is still with us. So, Mike, thanks for staying with us. You announced earnings this morning. Give us your sense of growth overall, and particularly for the 3M company in the coming year.
David, thank you. It's great to be on the air with you. So we did talk about our Q4 earnings this morning. Solid result in the middle of our expectations and guidance, really reflecting the actions we've taken to position ourselves as we come into 2020 and really a return to growth in 2020. And that return to growth driven by the actions we've taken, also by improvements in some of the key end markets that have challenged us all through 2019. And those were notably automotive, electronics, and China. Automotive, we still see an outlook for a decline in build rates. Electronics, you see some opportunities for improving growth in areas like semiconductor fabrication and in areas like consumer electronics, a little improving outlook. And then China, we actually came into the year really looking at it as low to mid-single digits growth for the total year. We've been long time in China, 35 years, and grown up with that economy. We've built out capabilities there. We manufacture in China for China. This is really about 3M's model in China. And we're positioned with our customers in a strong way in broad markets. even as we were challenged by some of the broader markets in China, our healthcare business really did well, led the growth for us in the market last year. We expect that again this year. So with that in mind, we're low to mid-single digits up until the last couple of weeks when the coronavirus issues have now kind of created some uncertainty.
How many people do you have in China?
So we have about 8,000 employees, and it's we manufacture majority of what we sell in China. We manufacture in China, including respirators, which are in high demand with the coronavirus.
So that actually, you might have sales volume go up, but how are your employees? I mean, how concerned are they? What do you do for them?
I think there's a general level of concern, and we're working with our employees. We, like a lot of companies, are managing travel to be cautious about the environment. We are working with our customers, government officials, and health organizations to make sure we're doing what's right with our capabilities around respiratory protection to support the situation there, and then also to make sure we're doing right by our employees.
How do you assess as a CEO? I mean, we're early into this epidemic, let's be clear, and the scientists don't really know everything about it yet. How do you assess whether this is a short-term blip or whether there might be longer-term repercussions?
Well, our focus right now is very simple. We're focused on ramping up our production of respirators to meet the demand, and we're doing that worldwide, not just the operations in China, but we have production in U.S. and Asia and Europe. We're ramping that up as fast as we can. The demand is everything we can produce, and we're ramping up to be 24/7. So that's the first focus for us. And then we're like a lot of other companies and observers. We're watching every day how it evolves and what do we need to do as a company. How do we need to adjust in order to really be a part of the solution there?
So, Mike, you came in and took over 3M, and I think it's fair to say, I hope you won't be offended, that 2019 was sort of a rough year for 3M. Certainly the stock price did not do very well. Give us your sense from the C-suite about how you look at this. How do you retool a company? A fundamentally great company has been great for many, many, many years, but you still need to move it in a certain direction or two. How do you assess that issue?
Well, in 2019, we were hit with a slowdown in markets that represented about 30% of our revenue. So there's a very clear focus on that. We had to act, and we took actions. We adjusted our costs. We adjusted our production plans. We got in line with what was going on, and that helped us to deliver strong margins, strong cash flow. In the face of those challenges, we had a record for cash flow in 2019, $5.4 billion, all-time high for us. So it reflects our ability to react and take action. Now, a big part of what you're asking is how do you lead forward now from that and positioning ourselves for success moving forward. Important part of it has been what we've called our transformation journey, building out capabilities to really align ourselves better with our customers, to streamline our enterprise, to drive greater growth, greater operational efficiency, deploying new ERP system, the ecosystem, digitizing.
ERP being?
ERP is, for us, it's SAP at the core of what we do.
Employee daily.
Yeah.
But one of the things you announced is sort of restructuring it to say, let's not go by geography, let's go by product lines. What was the thinking there?
So the next phase of our transformation journey is what we launched on January 1st, and we've been working towards that. We realigned our businesses around go-to-market models, our consumer, healthcare, industrial businesses, and our OEM businesses in transportation electronics. Now we are launching a capability in how we operate to take advantage of that optimization of those new transformation capabilities in our company.
How far along are you in your transformation process?
Well,
give me the innings. The traditional thing is, what inning are you in?
So we've deployed a majority of our revenue now worldwide with Europe and North America. We're in the process of working to deploy in the rest of the world. We've got the capabilities in place, and we're optimizing, and we're seeing the results. We saw improvements in margins and inventory management and service in Europe and North America as we went through 2019. So we're seeing the benefits. Now this is a way to multiply that across the world by really taking this model forward.
In a word, are you people with you? Because it's sometimes hard to lead through change.
It's a big focus for us. I talked about it in the call this morning. This is as much about culture as it is about technology. Exactly. We've got to continue to advance our culture and think about your people and culture as you do this. So a big focus for us is change management, helping our people through it and making sure they see it for the benefits, not just for the company, but for them individually. And that's been an important part of the the process. We didn't just decide to announce this on January 1st. We've been working it.
Terribly important and really difficult at the same time. Mike Roman, thank you so much. He's the 3M CEO. Coming up, we're going to talk with the authors of a new book about the Trump administration, A Very Stable Genius. That's next on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio.
You're not supposed to begin the race before the starting gun, but this is a different kind of race.
Let's go live to London and get the very latest.
Karen Moscow.
Airlines could soon be under pressure.
Nathan Hager.
Apple has reversed course on Hong Kong.
Business news, interviews, and analysis first.
We get another key reading on inflation.
Bloomberg Daybreak, weekdays at 5 a.m. Eastern on Bloomberg Radio, the Bloomberg Business app, and BloombergRadio.com. Bloomberg, the world is listening.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
When you went car shopping, you meant business. You aced vehicle history searches and test drives. You out-salesmaned the salesman. Now you've got your wheels. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll have the info you need to get more for your future. Go to aceyourretirement.org, because when it comes to speeding past financial challenges, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Run, run, mix it up, skip, run, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time, skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class, skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Mix it. Run.
Mix it. Let's get this right, sir. You didn't see 3 men dressed as clowns take off in a van with a Renaissance painting because you were distracted by, and I quote, a sporty red compact SUV with a bold mesh grille, a sculpted bonnet with sweeping roofline on diamond-cut alloys.
And beautiful rear haunches.
So, you saw a Jaguar E-Pace. But what about the clowns?
What clowns?
Jaguar E-Pace, designed to steal attention. Search Jaguar E-Pace.
Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, keep me out the cold jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, East London jobs, West London jobs, extra hour in bed jobs, startup jobs, late start jobs, get home in the daylight jobs, banking jobs, building jobs, flexible working on a Friday jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
You might already know that TuneIn allows you to listen to all the pro sports leagues wherever you go. But did you know TuneIn is also home to the wide world of college sports?
Open three, DeAndre Hunter got
Hand off Carruthers. Big hole right side. He leaps and he surges in. Touchdown.
From live college football, basketball, and baseball games to podcasts and coaches shows fueling your love for the game in your school. And the best part is, it's all free. Search college sports to find your team or league.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Bloomberg World Headquarters. I'm Charlie Bell at the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. They're all pushing higher right now. We have got the S&P 500 index gaining by 1%, up 32 points right now, 32.76. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 219 points. That's a gain of 0.8%. And NASDAQ up now by 121 points, higher by just about 1.3%. So U.S. stocks heading toward their biggest advance since October on speculation that global efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. Drew Mattis is chief market strategist at MetLife Investment Management, and he was our guest this morning talking about the coronavirus and the market outlook right here on Bloomberg Radio.
Well, I think people are doing the smart thing, which is they're looking at history and trying to estimate, how bad things could be, and then responding to kind of their worst case scenarios. It doesn't mean that's going to be the right way to have reacted, but it does mean that at least in this case there's a template people can work off of.
And we've got the 10-year now down 10.30 seconds at yield 1.64%. Gold down 0.7. 15.71 the ounce. Crude oil pushing higher today, up 0.4%. West Texas Intermediate 53.36 a barrel. Recapping stocks higher. The Dow up 214, S&P up 32, NASDAQ up 118. For NASDAQ up 1.3%, S&P up 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet, and that is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much to Charlie Pellet. This is Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio. President Trump's lawyers are concluding their third and final day of arguments in the impeachment trial today, with Senator Schumer saying it's clear whom he would believe if it came down to the president versus his former national security advisor.
President Trump and Ambassador Bolton said diametrically opposed things. Only one of them is willing to testify under oath. Who do you believe?
Whatever the Senate decides, it really all comes down to the inner workings of the Trump White House. Philip Rucker and Carol Lenning are Pulitzer Prize-winning journalists. They come from the Washington Post. They have now written a detailed account of the way President Trump operates behind the scenes. Their book is called A Very Stable Genius, Donald J. Trump's Testing of America, and we welcome them now to Bloomberg. So great to have you here. This is quite a yarn, a lot of different stories behind the scenes. I don't even know which one to pick. But Phil, why don't you start? Give us one that you think best illustrates sort of the thesis of the book.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having us here. The book is a history of these 3 years of the Trump presidency, and it's sort of a character study of Donald Trump, the man, the president, the commander-in-chief. And there's one vivid moment that we document in extreme detail where the president went to the Pentagon for a briefing from his officials, from the military officials, in a sacred space. They were explaining to him why we have troops around the world, why we have the alliances that we have. And the president was impatient with that tutorial. He snapped and barked at these generals, and he said, "I wouldn't go to war with you people." And he said, "You're a bunch of badopes and babies." And this was a really scarring moment for the generals in the room. These are folks who wear the uniform, who have served our country for decades, and are being disregarded and disrespected by the commander-in-chief.
And maybe, Carol, part of the problem was the president had a very different mindset about what that meeting was about. They thought they were going to educate him. They were going to inform him of things. He didn't want to be educated. He wanted to give orders.
Absolutely. And that's one of the themes that comes out, Dave, is like the president really doesn't, almost considered it an insult when the the force of the U.S. government that's brought to bear to educate him or advise him about various things. He doesn't really like taking anything. He doesn't like briefings unless they have charts and his name in them. He doesn't like things unless it's short attention span time. There's one other thing that really comes through in this book and in the reporting that Phil and I did, which is you can be a president and not know everything, but you got to take in your briefing. You got to take in your information. And people close to the president were shocked over and over again about the things the president didn't know about the American story. He really didn't know what happened at Pearl Harbor.
Yeah, that was a pretty stunning story.
He went to Asia with, his chief of staff and his wife, and on a trip to Hawaii, he's getting on the boat to go see the memorial USS Arizona, and he turns to John Kelly and says, "What's this all about, John?" The same thing happens in a moment with Prime Minister Modi of India. This is supposed to be a sensitive negotiation, and Modi's explaining that his neighborhood, quote unquote, is kind of rough, and he needs partners like our country. And the president says, "Well, it's not like you got China on your border," except he does.
Yeah, for 2,500 miles, more or less, exactly. At the same time, Phil, I mean, you are both prize-winning great journalists. It didn't take a lot of digging to know this about President Trump. When he was running for office, it was pretty clear how he operated, wasn't it? I mean, is this shocking to us? He doesn't read a lot of briefing papers?
The character traits are not shocking to anybody who's studied Trump just through the news or even just read his Twitter feed. But it took really painstaking and rigorous reporting to unearth the scenes and examples that we have in this book, because a lot of these details have not been known until now. There are all these touchstone moments in the presidency that we remember, the firing of Comey, the appointment of the special counsel, and so forth. But to get the texture and the color and the dialogue and to really take you in that room and understand what happened behind the scenes took a lot of reporting.
And Dave, keep in mind, I mean, one thing Phil and I have going for us is we're reporters at the Washington Post. We tried to get a lot of this information in the daily newspaper that we work for. But some of the people that gave us the scenes inside the room are people who never had spoken before. And they agreed because what did they care about? They cared about two things. They're interested in history and history being correctly memorialized. And the second is they were shocked. Republican supporters of the president, just jaws drop on the floor, shocked at how little he knew and how impulsive his decision-making was. That's why they shared these stories with us.
I mean, it's a compelling book, and it has wonderful reporting in it. At the same time, Phil, as we look at the impeachment trial right now, is this emblematic of the fundamental problem? That is to say, a matter of style, what he said, what he doesn't know, as opposed to what he does. I mean, what did he do that was such a big policy mistake? I think a lot of Americans may be saying, look, I don't particularly like the tweets. I don't like the way he behaves. I don't like some of the things he says. But you know what? He cut my taxes. He got the Chinese to pay attention to us. Is there a danger for us in journalism to miss the forest for the trees here?
There certainly is that danger, but I don't think we do that with the very stable genius. I mean, certainly there are moments of exploration about what he knows, his knowledge, his temperament, his characteristics, his abusive management style. But we also investigate the actions that he took. What did he do in our foreign relationships? How did he try to build a friendship with Kim Jong-un in North Korea, and what are the ramifications of that? What did he do with Syria, for example, wanting to withdraw those troops and Mattis resigning as the defense secretary?
Okay, it's a terrific book, as I say. And many thanks to Washington Post, Philip Rucker and Carol Letting. They are authors of A Very Stable Genius, Donald J. Trump's Testing America. Coming up, the Supreme Court lets the Trump administration go ahead and toughen the standards for green cards. We're joined by Greg Storr, our Supreme Court reporter. That's coming up next on Balance of Power, and we are on Bloomberg Radio.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. U.S. stocks are climbing as investors shake off fears the coronavirus outbreak will lead to a global economic fallout. The Dow is up 220 points, S&P up 33, the Nasdaq climbing 119 points. Rising demand for places to live and a shrinking supply of properties for sale has pushed up prices for homes. S&P CoreLogic reports Phoenix, Charlotte, and Tampa led November's year-over-year gain. Consumer sentiment is up. The Conference Board's index is at a 5-month high, boosted by current employment prospects and higher expectations for the future. And today is National Plan for a Vacation Day, with the goal of encouraging people to plan time off from work. The U.S. Travel Association says we left 768 million days of paid time off on the table last year. Donna Wilson, Bloomberg Radio.
Welcome back to the Dog Show. Up next, we have Satchmo. Satchmo is a member of the Shelter Pet Group.
That's right, a group known especially for their couch-snuggling, ball-chasing, face-licking, and, of course, companionship. Now, let's see him in action.
Look how he makes eye contact with his person.
That's actually known as the treat stare.
How intuitive. And now he appears to be excitedly turning in circles.
The happy dance so common with this group.
But really, the best way to know an amazing shelter pet like Satchmo is to meet one.
Visit theshelterpetproject.org today. Adopt.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
In-depth analysis, concise reporting, need-to-know global business news. Around the world and across the markets, Bloomberg connects the dots for decision makers. Stay on top of today's headlines. Follow big breakthroughs in tech. Understand the latest political issues. See how the world's wealthiest are spending their money. Track what's happening in the markets, and much more. Subscribe today to Bloomberg, the global standard for business reporting. Get it all at Bloomberg.com/subscriptions.
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Run, run, mix it up, skip, run, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time, skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class. Skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run, mix it up, skip, mix it, run.
Mix it. Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Welcome to whatever this is.
Introducing Sky Comedy, the new home of U.S. comedy. We've got a great lineup of brand new shows like Miracle Workers with Steve Buscemi and Daniel Radcliffe, and The Righteous Gemstones with Danny McBride and John Goodman.
Praise be to He.
We've got talk shows straight from the U.S. like The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon.
What are you talking about?
Ballers and Curb Your Enthusiasm are back with new seasons. This is Sky Comedy, the brand new home of U.S. comedy. Funny every damn day.
Treat yourself.
Don't miss Super Bowl 54 because you can't watch the game on TV.
Lights in over the left guard. Touchdown.
Listen to every second of the action with your phone, tablet, computer, or connected device. All you need is a TuneIn Premium subscription.
Search Premium to upgrade today.
TuneIn remembers the life, the success, the legacy of Kobe Bryant.
Buckle up for Kobe.
Five-time NBA champion.
It was my dream to be a Los Angeles Laker.
The Lakers repeat back-to-back titles.
Devoted husband and proud father of 4 daughters.
I love having girls. They're awesome, man.
People are in disbelief that this global and cultural icon could be gone.
Search Remembering Kobe Bryant on TuneIn for podcasts and interviews of the legend, Kobe Bryant. Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
Want to know a quick, easy way to see if your favorite podcasts have a new episode available? Just go to the home screen on your TuneIn app and see the latest editions under the Your New Episode section. Happy listening.
Broadcasting live from the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers Studio in New York. Bloomberg 1130 to Washington, D.C. Bloomberg 99.1 to Boston. Bloomberg 1061 to San Francisco. Bloomberg 960 to the country. Sirius XM Channel 119. And around the globe, the Bloomberg Business app and BloombergRadio.com. This is Balance of Power with David Weston.
Coming up on Balance of Power, the Trump administration wants to toughen the standards for those seeking green cards. And the Supreme Court says it can go ahead staying a lower court injunction. We're joined by my colleague June Grasso to talk about what this says about the merits of the case. But first, let's get a market check with Charlie Pellet.
Thank you very much, David Weston. Green, the theme, green on the screen right now with the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ. Sharp contrast to yesterday. Stocks higher across the board. In fact, U.S. stocks heading toward their biggest advance since October on speculation that global efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. S&P 500 index rebounding from its worst sell-off in 4 months, up now by 32 points, up 1%. The Dow up 212 points, up by 0.8%. NASDAQ up 121, up by 1.3%. 10-year down 10/30 seconds, yield 1.64%. Home prices in major American cities rose in November at the fastest pace in 9 months, up 2.6% from a year earlier. And with that story, here's Bloomberg's Vinny Del Giudice.
Phoenix, Charlotte, and Tampa led the year-over-year gain in the data compiled by S&P CoreLogic. Demand for housing gathered strength in the second half of 2019, boosted by historically low mortgage rates and improved income growth. Home sales have firmed of late, sending the number of previously owned homes on the market to a record low. Home construction set a 13-year high in December. Vinny Del Giudice, Bloomberg Radio.
After earnings, United Technologies up 2.1%, 3M down 5.2%, Harley-Davidson down 3.5%, and Pfizer lower now by 5.1%. Gold down 0.7%, 15.71 the ounce. West Texas Intermediate crude up 0.6%, 53.44 a barrel. Again, recapping the Dow, the S&P, and NASDAQ all higher. S&P up 33, up by 1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's the Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of Power continues, the Tuesday edition. Here he is, David Weston.
Thank you so very much, Charlie Pellet. Those seeking green cards have long had to demonstrate that they are not, quote, public charges. But until now, that just meant they weren't on the public dole. Now, the Trump administration says that doesn't go far enough. And the Supreme Court has ruled that the administration can go ahead with its changes nationwide while a court challenge works its way up the line. To take us through it, we welcome now my colleague June Grasso and Bloomberg Supreme Court reporter Greg Storr. So, Greg, thanks for being with us. And reading through this, it's important to know what the court did decide and what it didn't. It's not really the merits of the case, right?
No, this is just whether the rule can go into effect while the litigation goes forward. A federal trial judge in New York had put the policy on hold. The Supreme Court yesterday stayed that ruling, which means that while the, while the fight goes forward, the new public charge rule can take effect.
And there's no opinion, as I understand, from the court, but I guess Justice Gorsuch wrote something, and he indicated his problem is not so much with the merits of the case as this notion that one federal district court judge can issue a nationwide injunction, something, as I recall, we've heard from the President of the United States a few times about.
Yeah, that's been an ongoing issue from the President, from Attorney General Bill Barr, from Solicitor General Noel Francisco. That's something that they've made a big issue. You know, this is a real pattern that we see. The Trump administration puts out a rule. Opponents of it, both blue states and groups like the ACLU, go to court. A lot of times they're able to get to a judge who says, I think the administration violated the law. So we're going to put that policy on hold. And the complaint is a single judge should not be able to block a policy nationwide. At most, that single judge, the argument goes, should only be able to block it for the parties in that particular case.
Greg, has the court ever ruled on that? On the single judge, the nationwide injunction, or is this a new thing so that they haven't had a chance?
They haven't ruled on it. In June, it's interesting. Part of the reason is the Trump administration has actually had a hard time getting the court to rule on it because, let's just take this case, for example. If ultimately this case makes it up to the Supreme Court on the merits in the current posture, it may well be that a majority of the court says, we think the Trump administration was perfectly within its rights to put this rule in place. And if that's the case, they're going to overturn the injunction for everybody. The court is not instead going to do what would be the narrower thing, which is say, okay, the injunction can stand, the rule is blocked, but only for particular parties. So it's kind of a case where for the Trump administration, the arguments about the nationwide injunction are kind of a fallback argument, and what they really want is to reinstate the entire rule.
So, Greg, what is the argument of those challenging the Trump administration's new interpretation?
They have several arguments. One of them is that phrase "public charge" does appear in federal immigration law, and one argument is a pretty straightforward line that that's not this definition the Trump administration has come out with. Is not in keeping with what Congress intended when it put that phrase into the law. There's also an issue, a claim under the Constitution claiming it violates the Equal Protection Clause.
But on whether a public charge, don't they have sort of a good argument just on the language of the statute? It doesn't say are going to be a public charge. As I understand, the change proposed by the administration says we'll look forward 3 years and figure out if they're going to be 12 months you're likely to be on the public dole. How can the administration know that?
Yeah, that's part of the issue. They have a wide variety of factors that they look at. There's what kind of assets a person has, what kind of income they have, even such things as like credit score, English language proficiency, and the argument is exactly what you said, that it's not something that is necessarily going to be demonstrated by somebody receiving benefits. It could be these other factors, and that the argument goes is not in keeping with what Congress intended.
So, Greg, we've talked before about the Supreme Court allowing the Trump administration to go forward using funds from the Defense Department to build the wall. So now you have them allowing the administration to go forward with this particular rule. Are you seeing any kind of a path in the future toward the court approving more executive power over judicial power?
Well, it certainly seems as though the Trump administration, more often than not, wins at the Supreme Court when we get one of these issues. One of the big ones this term that the court will be deciding sometime in the next 5 months or so is whether the Trump administration can rescind the DACA program, the deferred deportation program started under President Obama. A lot of these challenges are very similar players, sometimes similar issues, whether the administration has the power to take an administrative step that it says it wants to. We have the exceptions, like the census case, where Chief Justice Roberts joined with the court's liberals to say that the court could not, that the Commerce Department hadn't given, or effectively to block the Commerce Department from putting a question about citizenship on the census. In general, this is a conservative court and one that is inclined to defer to this administration. So yes, we probably have more situations like this going forward.
So Greg, that stay of the lower court injunction involving the public charge issue on green cards wasn't the only procedural ruling in the Supreme Court that might have some ramifications. You were thinking earlier we're not going to get Obamacare up on the question of the individual mandate coming out of the Fifth Circuit, but now maybe it might be different?
Yeah, we talked about this last week with June. The Supreme Court. So what we have is the blue states are asking, Democratic-run states are asking the Supreme Court take up this issue of whether Obamacare is indeed still constitutional. And do it quickly. They want the court to take it up and decide it this term. We're on a real tight time frame. We're past the point where the Supreme Court would normally add new cases for the term. So last week, the Supreme Court said we're not going to expedite the handling of this appeal by the Democratic-led states. And a lot of us took that as a sign that the Supreme Court is saying, no, we're not going to take this up this term. But then the Supreme Court, in kind of a hidden order, refused to grant the other side of the case, folks like the state of Texas, an extension of time to file their brief in opposition. That sounds like a lot of process, but what it means is that at the court's February 21st private conference, they will probably have it in front of them, this question of whether they should take up the blue state appeal on Obamacare. And it's at least possible.
June and I are shaking our heads. It's because they didn't have enough controversial decisions to make this term, right?
And poor Greg having to look beyond the orders, beyond what they say to what they're thinking, basically. It's really amazing. What a term.
Yeah, exactly.
As I've said a million times, what a term.
Yeah, well, they've put together quite a docket for themselves this year, I must say. They're very ambitious. Okay, thanks very much now to my colleague June Grasso and to Bloomberg's Greg Storr. Coming up, President Trump's new Middle East peace plan that he just rolled out. We're going to get the views of an authority. He's Professor Dov Waxman from UCLA. The president says that there's something in there for the Palestinians as well as for the Israelis. I wonder if the Palestinians will see it that way. That's coming up next on Balance of Power on Bloomberg Radio.
Asset managers who seize change to launch new strategies, add distribution channels, or exploit new technology to re-engineer the investor experience are often rewarded. However, in an industry paralyzed with complexity, few act with agility or decisively. Few run their business strategically. Yet, the most competitive managers in the market know, with the right partner and a flexible operating platform, you can. Go boldly toward change with SEI Investment Manager Services.
I'm Steve Meyer, president of SEI's Investment Manager Services. At SEI, we understand the emerging forces that will define success for asset managers and what firms will need to compete tomorrow. That's why we continually optimize SEI's global operating platform. If your business requires greater agility, our advanced technology, integrated best-in-class systems, and multi-asset expertise can be your catalyst for business transformation.
With SEI Investment Manager Services, you lead the charge in a competitive marketplace. Learn more at SEIC.com/seize change.
Business is constantly evolving. Is your financial printer evolving to keep ahead of the curve? At Command Financial, we are redefining financial printing by providing industry-leading expertise, leveraging technology, and honing processes and best practices. Every day, Command helps SEC registrants, as well as members of their working groups, including securities attorneys and investment bankers, prepare, file, and disseminate regulatory and disclosure documents, such as registration statements, M&A documents, and mutual fund prospectuses and reports. Command provides a full range of services to help you effectively complete your deal, meet your disclosure requirements, and achieve your shareholder communications objectives. Visit our website at commandfinancial.com and learn how we're evolving, not only with the times, but also with your business requirements. Command Financial, redefining financial printing.
Are you boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Mix it up, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time, skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class, skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run, mix it up, skip, mix it, run.
Mix it. Let's get this right, sir. You didn't see three men dressed as clowns take off in a van with a Renaissance painting because you were distracted by, and I quote, a sporty red compact SUV with a bold mesh grille, a sculpted bonnet with sweeping roofline on diamond-cut alloys.
And beautiful rear haunches.
So, you saw a Jaguar E-Pace. But what about the clowns?
What clowns?
Jaguar E-Pace, designed to steal attention. Search Jaguar E-Pace.
Hey, have you heard? The Mayor of London has launched his latest van scrappage scheme to help tackle London's toxic air. Small businesses or sole traders like me with a polluting van could now get £7,000, which you could use to trade up to a Euro 6 vehicle. And you could get an extra £2,500 towards running costs if you go electric. The scheme is now even easier to qualify for, and it's open to any businesses with up to 50 employees, like mine. So, I'm going to search TfL Scrappage to see if I'm eligible and apply. You should do the same. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
This is not a cat. This is not a rocket. And this is not a sale. That's right. At Smarty Mobile, we're not having a sale. While others are slashing prices, we're introducing our best ever new plans. Take our new 30 gig data SIM for just £10 a month. With unlimited calls and texts and no speed restrictions, credit checks or contract tying you down, why shop around? New plans, great value. Now that's Smarty. Grab yours today. Search Smarty Mobile. See smarty.co.uk for terms.
When you're not listening to your team, take it to the end zone, the rim, or the net. Keep up with the biggest moments in sports by following TuneIn on social media.
Block, Cook into the end zone for the touchdown.
From reminders of the live top games to tips of the best sports stations and podcasts.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless.
Follow at TuneIn on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to get the most out of TuneIn.
On the goal line, scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
Move, hit a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Go courtside with the NBA on TuneIn. With the NBA on TuneIn, hear your favorite team and players take on their biggest rivals during the biggest games throughout the year, including regular season showdowns, the 2020 All-Star Game, and the NBA Finals in June, featuring the home and away calls for all 30 teams. Plus, with the NBA on demand, relive the best moments of the season by listening to the past games in their entirety. Listen to the NBA all season long on TuneIn.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Headlines and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and on Quick Take by Bloomberg. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Developing story: United Airlines Holdings says it will pare service to China because of, quote, a significant decline in demand for travel amid the outbreak of that virus that has claimed more than 100 lives. It says 24 flights to Beijing, Hong Kong, and Shanghai will be suspended beginning February 1st. Shares of UAL, the parent, little change. They are higher now, up by 7 cents, up by about 0.1%. Stocks are on track for their biggest advance since October on speculation that global efforts to contain the coronavirus will prevent a major economic fallout. S&P up 34, up by 1%. The Dow's up 226 points, up 0.8%. NASDAQ up 127, a gain there of 1.4%. 10-year down 11/32, yield 1.64%. Gold down 0.7%, 15.71 the ounce. Crude rebounding today, up 0.5%, 53.43 a barrel. Talking about West Texas Intermediate crude traded here in New York. Brent 59.58, up by 0.4%. Capping, stocks higher, S&P up 34, up 1.1%. I'm Charlie Pellet. That's a Bloomberg Business Flash. Balance of power continues. And once again, here's your host, David Weston.
Thank you so much, Charlie Pellet. Live from the Interactive Broker Studio, this is Balance of Power. I'm David Weston. Just over an hour ago now, President Trump presented his long-awaited plan for Middle East peace, which even he admitted the Palestinians might not like, at least at first blush. But he said he'd tried to be fair to the Palestinians and that he's written President Abbas pledging the support of the United States and the other countries around the world their support if he agrees.
President Abbas, I want you to know that if you choose the path to peace, America and many other countries we will be there. We will be there to help you in so many different ways.
To give us a sense of whether this plan could move the peace process forward, we welcome now UCLA Professor Dov Waxman. He is director of the YNS Nazarian Center for Israel Studies. So, Professor, thank you so much for joining us. Pick up exactly where President Trump left off. Is there any prospect that the Palestinians might find something in here that they could negotiate about?
No, I think there's absolutely zero chance. There's nothing in this plan that the Palestinians would be willing to accept, not even the idea of a Palestinian state under this plan, because first of all, there's clearly conditions attached to Palestinian statehood, and those conditions aren't clear and it could always be argued that the Palestinians haven't satisfied those conditions, so they'll never actually reach their promised statehood. And the state that's being offered to them is a state that would probably encompass.
Sorry, Professor Waxman? We may have left Professor Waxman. I think what he's saying is that the Palestinians are unlikely to really find this a way going forward for peace with Israel, despite what President Trump said. Now, in fairness to President Trump, he did say that the proposal, the map that he's proposed in this 80-page proposal, would actually more than double the territory that the Palestinians would control and would give them a capital in East Jerusalem, a capital in East Jerusalem that he said the United States would move an embassy toward. He also pledged $250 billion worth of investment into the Palestinian territories. At the same time, he was appearing with the Prime Minister of Israel, he's Benjamin Netanyahu, and said the Prime Minister Netanyahu was very much in favor of it, as well as his opponent in the election coming up in Israeli elections, and that's Benny Gantz, who we met with yesterday. So he has both sides in that election supporting what he's proposing. This is, of course, something that's gone back to LBJ, as President Trump said it. Various American presidents have tried to have a peace process. I think we now have Professor Waxman back with us. Professor, I'm sorry about the interruption there, some technical difficulty, but you were saying that there just is not much in here for the Palestinians. It's certainly not enough for them to move forward.
No, on all of their core demands regarding statehood, the refugee issue, the issue of Jerusalem, the issue of Israeli settlements, on every single Palestinian demand, this plan is very, very far from what the Palestinians would like, or what any Palestinian leader, whether current or in the future, would be willing to accept. And I'm not even sure whether this plan is even designed to seek the Palestinian acceptance, despite what President Trump is saying.
Well, that was going to be my question. And of course, we don't know what's in the mind of President Trump necessarily, but is this a political gesture or a diplomatic gesture? Is this meant to move forward on the diplomatic front? And if so, how would we get there if the Palestinians won't even take the first step?
Ironically, the White House has presented this as a diplomatic achievement because it's brought two Israeli political rivals together.
Right, exactly.
So it has helped to forge a kind of tentative truce, if you like, between Prime Minister Netanyahu and his chief political rival, Benny Gantz. But this can't be dignified as a kind of diplomatic move with regards to Israel and the Palestinians. For one thing, the process of achieving this, of bringing about this plan, has been one that's completely alienated and sidelined the Palestinians. So there's been real...
Oh my, I'm afraid we might have lost Professor Waxman once again. I was going to talk to him, though, about where is Plan B for the Palestinians? I mean, this has been a situation that's been going on since the State of Israel was really created back after World War II. And various people have tried to bring peace to the area, and there's a lot of problems in the Palestinian territories. I actually have been in the West Bank. I've also been in Gaza, and it is not pretty, particularly refugee camps. There's a lot of poverty, very little employment, very little investment in the situation. People say that there's a lot of blame to go around for that, both on the Palestinian side as well as the Israelis. But it's not clear at this point even that the other Arab nations are supporting the Palestinians in their conflict. We remember when the United States President Trump moved the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, there was initially some statements that came out of the Arab countries, but it really didn't go anywhere at all. There was not a whole lot of support for the Palestinians. So we're now joined by Jason Kelly, who's come in. He's here early because 4 hours is not enough for Bloomberg Business Week.
Well,
so he's been gracious enough and kind enough to come in a little early for us.
Any chance to spend some time with you, David? Come on.
Right, I believe that, Jason.
It's sort of a big day all around, right? I mean,
it is
it feels like our theme today is essentially enthusiasm for earnings is overshadowing worries for virus.
Certainly the equity markets are up. The equity markets are up. At the same time, it hasn't gotten a lot worse in the United States.
Exactly.
Worse in China, but not here. Maybe people find some solace in that.
Exactly right. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. We've got Apple earnings, obviously, coming out after the bell. So we're going to talk about Apple essentially two ways.
And Apple's up again today. I mean, it's up enormously over the last 12 months.
Even though they may have some supply chain problems owing to the virus.
No kidding. As I understand, a lot of those iPhones are made, and now it's not very close to Wuhan, but it's within 300 miles or something of Wuhan, the epicenter of the virus.
And so one of the things we're going to talk about with Mark Gurman, who's our Apple expert, is sort of what the implications are for Apple and maybe more broadly for that tech supply chain, which, as you well know, is so centralized in China in many ways. And then, speaking of tech, we're going to catch up with Roger McNamee. He's got a book.
I've heard of him.
Called Zucked.
Yes, I know the book. I know the book.
Really gone.
It doesn't take a point of view on Facebook at all.
So, and we've obviously got Facebook earnings coming out tomorrow, so that's a timely conversation. And then this is an interesting one. T.D. Jakes, the well-known pastor, who I'm sure you know, he's going to be by. He's talking about he's talking about STEAM education, STEAM jobs, how we may be able to bridge that gap. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him.
He's a remarkable figure,
totally.
A real character and a real force of nature. Really, T.D. Jakes is very special.
Right? Yeah. So interested to see his take, and then we've got some other things going on in the investment world, and and I hate to rub it in, but then we're headed down to Miami tonight for a couple days.
Go ahead, rub it in a little bit more. Yeah, exactly. Is there anything going on down in Miami besides the sun and the surf and
sun, surf, and Super Bowl?
Yeah.
We're going to be on Radio Row there Wednesday. Thursday, and then big power players summit with a lot of names that you know. Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, is going to be there, and John Skipper.
I love John Skipper. Tell him hello for me. Yeah, I worked with him for years. He's a really good guy.
So he has this new job, DAZN, and so he's going to talk about the world of streaming.
Yeah, and say hi to Roger Goodell as well.
I will.
Tell them I'll see him around. Okay, that's all coming up with Jason Kelly and Carol Massar in the 4-hour version of Bloomberg Business Week we will look to every single day. So that does wrap up a big day, as Jason said, on Balance of Power with the Peace Plan, as well as we got a little visit there from the 3M CEO, Mike Roman. And I hadn't thought about this, but they make a lot of those respirators that are selling out around the world, in China and around the world. So that does it for Balance of Power for today. I'm David Weston. Thank you so much for listening to Bloomberg Radio.
Bloomberg Daybreak Asia.
Are you seeing a
Boredom, fitness enemy number one. So don't just run. Mix it up, skip, run. Give yourself a lift, mix it up, lift, mix it up, run, lift, splash, skip, lift, run. It's crunch time, skip, mix it up, run, mix it out of boxing class. Skip, run, splash, skip, run. Mix it up at Virgin Active and get stronger, fitter, faster. Join now for 12 months and pay nothing until March. T's and C's apply. Run. Mix it up. Skip. Mix it. Run. Mix it.
What if your email let you see a project's entire history and not just the messages sent to you? What if everyone else on your team could see it as well? Then it wouldn't be email at all. Move communication from inboxes to channels in Slack. Instead of seeing a partial set of messages about a project, everyone in Slack sees exactly the same thing and moves work forward faster. Slack. Choose a better way to work. Get started at slack.com.
Keys. Check. Phone. Check. 70s playlist downloaded? Check. Nice. There's one more thing you should check before you leave. Your travel. There's a new cycleway under construction between Kensington Olympia and Brentford Town Centre, so expect delays due to lane closures at the junction of Kew Bridge Road and Chiswick High Road. Plan ahead at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Oh my days, it's storming the charts at 169.
And last over the line, number 160.